Hi everyone, I'm Sophia. So, to start off to respond to the first video, I'd just like to say that the art was so beautiful. I just think it was super creative. Like, using sand to describe that whole story is just, I was pretty mind blown watching that. And I think he's the only artist that does that type of work. And you could really see, like, even the way he was doing the art, it really showed how that story was a violent separation of the Sky Father and Earth Mother from their kids. And I don't know, I just thought it really gave me a different perspective on how to look at such stories, because usually when we're told things, we kind of have to imagine it all on our own. But when we're able to see it visually, it's a lot different. So I really enjoyed that. And watching the video on the Kiribati story, the Nariao creation story, what I thought was very interesting was when they said that the sky and earth were stuck like in a box, and how the creator Nariao like opened it up and stuff. But I also thought it was pretty interesting how he ended up killing his stone father to create the moon, sun, winds, rain, people, and the land. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And then on page 32, the link was broken for me. I wasn't able to open it. It just went to apple.com. So sadly I didn't get to watch that video. So then I read and then I looked at the infographics, and so the infographic on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch I thought was very interesting, because actually this past week I just wrote an essay on a talk, and I had to talk about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, so I already was kind of aware of this topic and such, and it's just crazy that no nation is willing to take responsibility for this. Basically, humans just aren't taking responsibility for polluting the earth and dumping all our waste back into it, and it's just kind of sad and gross to see, but this is the reality, and this is the reality in the Pacific, and until we're willing to change, this is going to be an even bigger garbage patch. It said it was twice the size of Texas, and I can't even imagine what that would look like, but it's probably going to be triple, quadruple that if we just keep going on like this with our plastic pollution. And even insects are adapting to this ecosystem of plastics. It said the water insects were laying their eggs on the plastic, which is a complete change in the ecosystem they're used to. And that's actually pretty sad. And 80% of the plastics are coming from the land-based sources, so that's basically all from us, and not too much is from the ships. And then on the climate change infographic, it said that temperature increase is going to be about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius, and that's greatly going to affect the Pacific, as it's already a very warm place. And so it said there's going to be respiratory diseases or disorders taking place, and that's just sad. Especially for island cultures, these are people who value the land and see their direct connection to it. So I think it's even more sad for these people who have already feel like a loss to their land, and now they're having to see it be degraded. And the whole world's watching this, but not much change is really occurring. So I'm very glad we're learning about these issues in this class. And it's also stated that fisheries are going to be declined a lot, reduced in catch, especially in tuna, 20% in tuna, and only 7% in overall. So, I mean, if we're only going to be catching tuna, then yeah, those are going to be very degraded. And that less tourism will be taking place. And I think that's going to be the biggest damage to these islands, because that's what the economy really relies on, is this tourism industry. And it's at about 27 to 34%. That's about 30% decrease in revenue, which is a lot of jobs, a lot of people having to figure out a new way of income. And I think the whole world is just needs to change, but we're not. So sadly we might have to watch these. And it also stated that in the other infographic that countries with weak health systems will be least able to respond, and that children are most affected due to long-term exposure, and that's going to be our children. So we're creating this world for them. Sad reality. We must start one person at a time. If you're watching this video, no more plastic consumption. No, I'm just kidding. So now to talk about my island territory of Guam and land. Well, for them, I mean, they didn't see necessarily as people owning the land, but rather only certain people had rights to land in certain areas and ownership. I mean, even though they didn't see ownership directly, the rights were by relationship, and in Chamorro culture, they're matrilineal. So that means all the lineages is passed through the mother, through the woman's line, which I think is very incredible, because that means women were very important in their culture. And I like seeing that, as we have a very patriarchal society and patriarchal world today. So access to land was determined by these kinships and these lineages and relationships, and also access to water as well. And the land rights in Chamorro culture were controlled mostly by high-ranking clans from the upper castes. And once again, the land was passed through the female line, through matrilineal lines, even though what I also found was interesting was that even though it's passed through the woman moves on to the man's property when she's married. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I think it's interesting how there's this common theme of people not owning land in these societies, in these Pacific and indigenous societies, because I think that's a pretty beautiful way to look at the world, because it's opposite of the way the world is divided and separated today in countries and borders, and I own this property, you own that. And if we all were not to see it that way, then I think we wouldn't really be facing these environmental issues and all this destruction of our home and of these cultures and places. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.